The president saying the strait is completely open. Is it, in fact, on this Saturday morning?
Listen, yesterday I asked for cautious when that announcement came, particularly because we need to verify the full openness of the Strait of Hormuz. When I immediately contacted the littoral states in the region, including Iran, it was clear that the freedom of navigation is not fully restored because the traffic separation scheme that has been adopted by the IMO back in 1968 is still not open for navigations. There are concerns that they may be mines, which meant that the announcement from Iran about the opening of the Strait of Hormuz was something similar to what they announced earlier, when there would be some connections or some verifications from that side. That actually doesn't follow the right of freedom of navigations. And this is the reason why I asked for cautions and that I was verifying the information, because for us, the full openness has to be in a safe manner.
So you're talking about that TSS traffic pattern, the one that's been there, the ones that ships have been using, that was never really reopened.
That is correct. And at present, there are concerns that there may be mines in this traffic separation scheme. This is one of those countries met yesterday, led by the United Kingdom and France, in order to provide that assistance to verify and clean the Strait of Hormuz from mines once the conflict comes to an end. We all want progress, but we also need to make sure that any transit in the Strait of Hormuz is not going to be during any dangerous times and, of course, put at risk the life of the seafarers.
A sticking point seems to be, Mr. Secretary General, the presence of this U.S. military blockade. The President of the United States adamant that it stay in place, Iranian officials saying it needs to go. How is that affecting the flow of traffic? And have you gotten any indication that the U.S. is willing to move all of that military might here in the days and weeks ahead?
I haven't received any official confirmation from the United States in that respect. And of course, their announcement is related to traffic that goes into the Iranian ports. So this is slightly different to the way that we are approaching the transit in the Strait of Hormuz. The way that we are working right now is to verify that the strait is fully open once the conflict comes to an end, that there are not hazards like mines, and that the traffic separation schemes will continue to operate just the way that it was doing it before the conflict started. And for that, we already have developed an evacuation plan in assistance with the industry and those organizations that look after the seafarers, as well as the flag states of the ships that are in the Persian Gulf.
Mr. Secretary, you and I were messaging earlier while we were on the air, actually. It's one of the reasons we wanted to have you back on. Do you have any updates on this incident? There may be one, there may have been two incidents where IRGC fast boats appear to have approached tankers, possibly fired on a British ship. Now, it sounds like the crews and the vessels are safe, but what can you tell us about that one or possibly two situations?
The information is quite fluid at present, and we are working in verifying exactly what's happened because of the announcement this morning, again, reverting the openness of the Strait of Hormuz. So there is information of at least one vessel that was approached and was fired at, but there's no damage to the vessels, and thankfully also not a single seafarer has been harmed. These have also been broadcasted to other vessels in the regions. So companies and ship owners continue to be cautious on this. And that's the call that I made yesterday. We need to verify what is happening. Some vessels continue to turn off their automatic identification systems in order not to be targeted. And this is why it takes us a few more time in order to actually get the correct information.
For my last question, I'm going to actually steal it from Christina, who's been asking about this over the course of the morning, but I think you can give us the concrete information on all of this. You've spoken with us in the past about how many seafarers are on these vessels in the Strait, some 20,000 in total. How many of them, if any, have been able to get off of those vessels during the course of this conflict, or have they been effectively stuck on those ships over the course of these last 7 or 8 weeks?
A handful of seafarers have actually transit. If we looked into the movements and when some of them use the corridor that the Islamic Republic of Iran introduced, we saw that there were at least sort of 8 or 10 vessels that at any given time transit. Yesterday, we're now verifying the few vessels that managed to sail through the Strait of Hormuz when the information was sent out about the openness of it. We still have a large number of seafarers. Just because a handful handful of vessels have transit doesn't mean that we have gone down from 20,000 to a more significant reduced number. So the focus remains on roughly that number. Early next week, we will have more information on what is the data in relation to the Seafarer trap there. But I can tell you one thing: if it's one Seafarer trap in the Strait of Hormuz, that's one too many.